Welcome to another episode of Cooking with Heidi, for lack of a better word. Today we're going to start sourdough bread. You kind of have to think about this one a little bit in advance. You can do it the morning of that you want to make it and have it served, but it really works better if you do it the night before. So I was thinking, Rick asked for spaghetti tomorrow, so I thought, sourdough bread would go really well. So what we're gonna do tonight is just take 3 cups of flour. Now you can use bread flour or you can use all-purpose. I'm just using all-purpose tonight. So that's 1 and 2 and 3. And to that, we're just gonna leave that out because I'm gonna need it tomorrow morning. To that, we're going to add a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of yeast, and 1.5 cups warm water. Now remember, we do not want hot water, but we also have a cold glass measuring cup. So I'm going to come over here and get my water warm, rinse my cup a little bit, get the coolness off the glass. And I've got 1.5 cups of water. And then to that, I'm going to grab a teaspoon of, I use kosher salt. When I can find it, I like to use bread salt. Bread salt has additional minerals in it. Get yourself a salt cellar. So that helps, and to make your bread have the nutrients it needs for that yeast to work. I also need a teaspoon of yeast, and should have had that out. I keep mine in an airtight container in the freezer. It's the best way to store yeast, especially if you're not making yeasted breads on a daily basis, which I don't make them on a daily basis. So I'm just putting that in there. And what I'm going to do is take my dough whisk, or you can use a fork, spoon, whatever you want to use. And I'm just going to gently stir that till it starts to pull away from the side. You don't have to knead it or really work it, but you can see it's kind of in a ball shape. I'm using my new lighting ring that I got too today, if you hadn't noticed. And then what you're going to do, you're going to take plastic wrap. Now, I try to not use this as much as possible because I'm trying to be ecologically sensitive. But really, a towel won't do it. You really need to press and seal this bowl. Now you want it to be out of drafts, out from around an air conditioning vent or whatever. And my best way of doing that, as I've said before, is just put it in my microwave. And we're gonna leave this, I'm not even gonna look at it, don't peek at it, don't do anything, till about 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. It's just gonna sit there and grow. And I will continue the video on then. And I'll show you what it looks like after sitting there for, you want it about at least 12 hours. Let's see, it's almost 11 o'clock here at night. So, 11, and then probably 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, I'll start doing the rest of this. So if you're wanting to make this, go ahead, get this, put this in your microwave, then forget about it till the next day. Now don't forget about it too long or you'll end up with a big mess in your microwave. Talk to you soon. Hi, we're back after letting our sourdough bread rise. It's now about 4 o'clock here in the afternoon, and I've had it made since 11 o'clock last night. So I just took it out of the microwave. It's been covered up in plastic wrap. And what I've got is this. It looks very wet, kind of sticky, and that's okay because we're going to take a little bit of flour And I'm going to put it on my cutting board here. And I'm going to dump that all out. And it's already risen. It's a little wet, and that's okay. We're going to get it a little bit drier. So what we're going to do is we put a little flour down. You can see it's sticky. And I'm just going to wet this a little bit with some flour. We're just trying to make a ball. Punch out the air, just kind of like white bread. You're going to knead it. Okay, so I'm going to, I'd rather have it too sticky. You don't want it too dry. So I'm just putting a little until I can handle it. And you can kind of see. And I'm just kind of stretching and folding, stretching and folding. Put it back down, get a little bit more flour on it. And what I'm going to do is I have a piece of parchment paper here. And I'm just going to set that whole blob right in the middle, okay? And it's going to seem wet, and that's okay. It's a little bit wet. And what we want to do now is we need to preheat our pan, but let me wash my hands first. Okay, so when you bake this, you need either a cast iron stock pot with a lid, or I have a Calphalon, just a 8-quart stock pot, which makes soup in and such. What you want to do, but it has to have a lid. So what you want to do is, first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 450 degrees. Yes, that's hot. And you want your rack in the middle of the oven. Let me get mine going here. And you're going to set your timer for 35 minutes. And you're going to put this pan in, no grease or anything. Just put that pan in your oven for that 35 minutes. And while you're waiting on that to heat, you're letting this do kind of a second rise for 35 minutes. Yes, it's wet, but trust me, it's going to work out great. This is a lame, as you know, or a razor blade, or you can use a super sharp knife, either one. We'll be using that the next time we get together. So 35 minutes from now, I'll be back. Okay, so my timer just went off on my pan, so I'm gonna retrieve it. It will be very, very, very hot. And you don't wanna leave that door open either, because you want that hot pan to stay hot. So all I'm doing is I'm lifting this up, I'm dropping it right in, and I'm just making a big kind of sloppy X here in my pan. It's not wanting to cooperate. Okay, and I'm putting that lid on just like that, and I'm gonna pop it right back in the oven for 30 minutes. Okay, so that's in the oven for 30 minutes, and we'll be back to show, after it does 30 minutes, you're gonna take the lid off and do another 15 to 20 till it's nice and golden brown. So I'll show you what it looks like after that additional basically 45 minutes. Okay, we're back after 30 minutes at 450 with the lid on and 15 minutes at 450 with the lid off. And all I'm gonna do now is grab hold of that bread in the parchment. Don't touch the bread. And just get it out of that hot pan. And make sure if you have little ones around, to make sure that pan is nowhere near where they can get their hands on it, or cats or dogs or whatever, because it takes a while for it to cool down. And you want to let it rest for at least 20 minutes. Don't cut it right away. You'll be tempted because your house smells fabulous, but don't do it. You'll want a serrated bread knife. And what we're gonna do is when we cut it, we're going to stand it on its side, cut through. So we're going to stand it like this, cut once, Then place the cut side down and then slice. However thick you want it, however you want to do it. I've also used this where I cut it in a crosshatch pattern after it's cooked, drizzle garlic butter inside of it and stuff it with mozzarella cheese in between all those crevices and wrap it in foil and bake it. That is the bomb, but not particularly healthy. So unless we're having company or something, I don't cook it that way. But as you can see, if I just hold this by my hands, it's still hot. It's a beautiful loaf. Now, one thing I want to say, this is not true sourdough. The only place to get that is in San Francisco, California, from Boudin's. The climate there, the starter that they have, that is true sourdough. This is as close as I can get back here. We don't have a lot of bread stores back in the Midwest other than your basic white. So this satisfies my need for some sort of sourdough because if you can make a sourdough starter. There are places like King Arthur Flour that you can buy a sourdough starter jar. But the problem with that is you have to work at it. You have to feed it once a week. You have to make sure that it's happy, and that takes a certain temperature, and you have to keep it in your fridge, and it tends to get shuffled in the back of your fridge, and then you forget about it, and then it's ruined, and all you can use it for then is sourdough pancakes or whatever. And you have to be baking, to have a starter like that, you have to be baking at least 2 or 3 times a week to keep that fresh, because every time you make a starter batch, you basically use maybe 1/3 of it to 1/2 of it, and the rest is discarded. And you know, there are things you can make, sourdough biscuits, sourdough pancakes, all kinds of stuff that you can make with it, but I just don't bake that much for the 2 of us. So for me, this recipe, and it's on Pinterest and everything, it's the no knead sourdough bread. I like it. So I hope that helps you. I hope you'll give it a try. And like I said, things are very hot, so be very careful when you're doing this. But I'm gonna try and do, the next couple recipes are gonna be a blueberry coffee cake that I make a lot, and some what they call pecan pie muffins that my sister-in-law turned me on to, Carol. And those things are addictive. I send them by the truckload down to deer camp every year because they're just so portable and they're just so delicious. So look for those recipes, and I hope you have a blessed Monday, and stay healthy, stay safe, and above all, be kind.